Bad time to get lost.
Yeah. Oh. Need you guys to. Oh, so slow. Alright, so one of the abilities these guys get is that. Warhog Stomp. Now, this thing has a very short range. So you just have to be mindful. I'm going to talk at length about both of these effects that both Warhog Stomp and Talons of Nern, as well as shifting, shifting Earth from Solar Mist at the end. But for now, just enjoy. So we're getting instant heals from Overkill. Oh, yeah. This is why I don't like the range. There we go. And then, once that lands, you can get an extra hit on him. Alright, let's run up. We'll initiate Wolfkin by hitting anybody. Literally anybody. There we go. That guy's down. Here we go. Our own nemesis. 20% off your health. Oh, we got both of them at the same time? Alright, Filthy Grey Robber, get out the way. I'm trying to take down Ancient Soldier Varg. Oh, you're dead. Done. Yeah. As long as you're understanding that you need to land on the enemy, it's not as bad, though. Like, if you're using this, plan on landing on your enemy. But I do wish this, was it War Stomp? And I'm specifically using Warhog Stomp for the 20% damage. I do wish, number one, it did about double the damage. So I did the math in my previous, and it was about, it would need to do 35%. Honestly, 40% is probably better. I wish it did 40% of your enemy's maximum health. Oh, sorry, dead. Instead of 20%. But alright. And that'll make it worth the payoff. Because even though I have enough Magicka, because I've gone out of my way to have enough Magicka to make this work, and have enough Magicka regeneration to make this work, most orcs that are built are not going to have enough. And then the other effect I'm using, you just saw Kato trigger. It's called Talons of Nern. It's a master spell from Apocalypse that plays basically like a novice spell, it feels almost, right? Because it's just how useless this is. So if you stagger the enemy, which I'm doing with War Stomp, it launches them in a spike. Okay, first of all, let's talk about how small this area of effect is. This area of effect is tiny. Like a consecrated ground from, I think it was Triumvirate or something, has like double the size. And that's what I would recommend for this spell as well. Double the size, right? Because if it was double the size, it reached out to like here, it would be useful against these two enemies. But instead, I have to wait for the enemies to come to me inside that mist, which is way too bright. By the way, that also should be changed. That mist is way too bright. Yeah. Those are my recommendations. Double the radius of both Warthog Stomp and of Talons of Nern. Turn the brightness of Talons of Nern down. Give Warthog Stomp 40%. And honestly, double the radius of all War Stomps. But then give Warthog Stomp 40% of enemies' current health damage. And then give Talons of Nern 35% of enemies' maximum health damage. See, it triggered, and see, he's nowhere near the effect. The one good thing about War Stomp, though, I'll point this out, is that it will stagger enemies, so that even if you're using a very slow weapon like this, it'll still work. It'll stagger your enemy long enough for that to work. So that's a really good thing about it. So I'm gonna keep real with you guys. There are no abilities on this actual build that I'm using, I'm pretty sure, right? Well, I guess I'm using War Stomp, but the other ability, it's kind of a lore ability. It's like, hey, you can do stronghold supplies to trade with other orcs or whatever. You find extra stuff with them from them. And then the third ability is a resistance to shock. That's actually pretty cool. I'll show you why, actually. So I don't have enough points for it, but if I did, I would put 7 points into this because you get Electro Bolt. And sometimes you'll make mistakes with your Dwarven autocannons on that build. And if you do, sometimes you'll end up shooting yourself, either with electricity or what have you. But if you resist electricity by 25%, then it actually works out pretty well. Alright, so I only swing twice to let him go. Let's see if we can keep him alive. That's what I've been doing so far in the last few episodes. I've been keeping this guy alive. So let's see if we can do that here.
Why should I share the treasure with anyone?
Just gonna ignore that guy. We gotta keep going. Come. Don't give up. There we go. Oh, I'm doing more damage to Arvel than to the other guys. Go, Arvel, keep running. No, why are you attacking me? You're such an idiot. You could have survived. Instead, you attacked me. Alright, you're dead. Alright, back to what we were talking about. Yeah. So those are my 3 recommendations. Oh, I didn't tell you about the last recommendation, actually. Shifting Earth is a enchantment from Summer Mist that does basically the same thing that this does, which is it creates a spike under their feet if they get staggered. But it only has a chance to do so. So my recommendation was to change it up a little bit. Wow, it's not even creating a spike. Oh, there it is. There. Now we got some spikes going. Got staggered by hitting my heavy armor. I'm closer. So the spike is kind of creating me. Yeah. Alright, so I was talking about Shifting Earth. So Shifting Earth could be improved dramatically by making it do the percent to enemies, should we say current or maximum health? Let's say current health. Make it do the percent of damage to enemies' current health that it has, right? So if it has a 20% chance to trigger, because it has a chance to trigger, it's not guaranteed. If it has a 20% chance to trigger, then it would do 20% to enemies' current health. If it has a 40% chance to trigger, then it would do 40% to enemies' current health. That would be my recommendation for Shifting Earth. That would all be determined by the magnitude of the enchantment itself, right? Anybody else? Nope. So those are my 3 recommendations. Okay, let's just ignore this. For what we're looking at right now, Manaz, for the Orc, this ability right here, well, I guess you're seeing 2 of them, but for War Stomp, double the range of War Stomp, so double the radius that it affects. And then for Warthog Stomp in particular, double the damage it does. So instead of 20% of enemies' current health, make that 40%. Because look at 20% is nothing, and you're spending 100 magicka for this. On top of that, it's from the Steed Stone, which means it's pretty late game area, like mid late game. Um, you're not going to get there without doing some decent amount of fighting. So it would be nice if it was a bit stronger. What is up with this guy? Like, why are you so strong? There you go. Like, I don't know if just wasn't hitting him or what was happening to him, but it was weird. All right. What else? So that was for War Stomp. For Towns of Nern,
Alright, so first and foremost, this is a like and subscribe checkpoint, but not just for me. Honestly, if you see anybody making content for Manaz, Freyr, EnaiRim, Futhark, please help them out. Like, support them because this is very, very good, honestly. It's better than all the old stuff. It's better than Imperius. It's better than what was the other thing, Andromeda? It's better than all that, bro. Like, so I want to keep encouraging Anai to create making this content. So if possible, like, yeah, let's make sure that we download his stuff, the new stuff that's coming out, because honestly, it's fun. All right, so this is my 5th time attempting this voiceover, so it's not going to match up with what I'm actually doing, but I don't really care. So here you see me measuring the ranges. I'm describing the ranges, some changes that I want. So there were 3 changes that I was trying to describe here. One was for Shockwave, right? So not Shockwave, War Stomp. War Stomp is too short of range. It's basically the same range as your weapon, it feels like, which is like maybe a meter in front of you. And I thought it would be great if we extend that to 3 meters in front of you and behind you, just to make sure that any enemies around you get hit, because this thing costs 100 mana to use, so it's kind of sucky. And I also would like to double the range of Towns of Nern to make it as big as Consecrated Ground, which is another spell that Anai has made, and it's massive, right? Like, if any Draugr are anywhere near you in the next room over, the room after that, they're dying from Consecrated Ground. But Towns of Nern is just like 2 steps away and nothing gets hit. So for a master spell that you spent your time grinding up to 90 alteration and doing the quest for shaving off some heart scales, spending all the money for it, you use the spell and then you have to stagger the enemy, and then if the enemy isn't within 2 feet of where you cast the spell, it doesn't work. Like, that's really bad. So make the range for that as big as Consecrated Ground. I don't know how big that range is, but just make it that big, because it doesn't do damage by itself anyway. Speaking of damage, all 3 of those similar effects that do use tremors, whether it's Warthog Stomp, whether it's Towns of Nern, or whether it's the Shifting Earth enchantment from Summer Mist, all 3 of those need damage added to them. So in the case of Warthog Stomp, it just needs double the current amount of damage. So instead of 20% of the enemy's current health, make it 40%. That'll make it a 2-hit kill, which with the suggestion I have for Towns of Nern, which is 35% of the enemy's maximum health. All right, so that's a guaranteed 3-hit kill by itself if you stagger the enemy 3 times. But if you manage to use it alongside Warthog Stomp, it'll be a guaranteed 2-hit kill. I think that's fair for a master spell alongside a ability that costs you 100 mana to use that can't be reduced. And don't get it twisted, War Stomp costs more than Shehai or Caustic Spit, which are both way better, way better. So it's not fair that it's so weak compared to those 2 things. So that's why it needs this kind of buff. Right here you see Out of the Inferno. Out of the Inferno gives you a 50th of a percentage point of resistance to elements for each armor point you have. So I don't have a dragon hide on this build. I sold it right back to Tofdir. The reason is so that we can get that extra 2% from Ebony Flesh, because we're hitting the armor cap anyway. We're at like 804 once we're in combat and Ebony Flesh activates. Right now we're sitting at 689 outside of combat. So just simple stuff. What else do we need to go over? On Okawa's Recital, we have Town of Nern, because I've been talking about and using it a lot. We have Orc Strength, which is why we have a full Magicka build, and we also have, what was the third one? Troll Blood. I think I might actually be going to that one right now. Yeah, we don't have resist elements because with our combination of 17% from Out of the Inferno and 25% from Alter Self and Storm Runner, we have 42% natural elemental resistance. We don't need a buff to increase that. If we did, we'd hit the cap for Valveron, which I've installed now. Only thing I don't like about Valveron is that it got rid of injuries, but it's okay. It might not have been that popular of a feature. So and I'm going over the stuff now in the video that I was just talking about, but like I said, it's going to be out of order. Spelltron, I think I went over Spelltron in the video already, but the 3 effects that we picked here were Blood, Crystal, and Haste. And the whole idea is that you're able to get to the enemy as quickly as possible. If they're a mage, resist their spells, especially if they're an ice mage. That's important. And then kill them in one shot. That's why we went with those 3 effects. We put them on our Arcados because we're not using any spells. So the entire RP for this build is supposed to be a shaman. So I try to do special RPs with all my builds. If it's a Argonian, then I do Shadow Scale. If it's a Nord, then it's a Tongue. If it's an Altmer, then it's a Sigic. That type of deal, right? So for Orc, it was actually kind of hard to come up with a, hey, this is my special race class, right? Because they don't really seem to have too many. They kind of have, like, Wise Women was the closest thing I saw to it. Of course, you have Chieftains, but Chieftains are just bigger, stronger orcs. And then Shamans and Witch Doctors, and I guess ESO added Priests. But I just went with Shaman, and that's why we have a full Magicka build, because if you look at Orc Strength, whenever I go back to it, you'll see that it divides your Magicka in half and then adds that to your health and stamina. So when I go into combat later on in this video, these numbers are going to be way different. Instead of 640, 100, 250, it's going to be like 345, 347, and 375, something like that. And it's going to be much more balanced and much more tanky. So the way I play this is you start out as a, oh, by the way, let me talk about what's on the screen right now. So if I had 7 more points, I'd go with this. Electro Bolt, it's nice that Orc starts out with a resistance to electricity. So if you accidentally shoot yourself with it because you're not immune to your own autocannons, you can resist it. And I'm just going through the trees. You can see what's going on with that. What was I talking about right before that? I can't remember. Oh yeah, I was trying to talk about the way I would play this particular build. So as you see, we have high Magicka. So the idea would be to start with your alteration skill and your restoration skill, and you would level those in order to get where you gotta go. By the way, Voice Rage and Ruin could be used to activate Apotheosis. Since we're a shaman, it could be pretty religious stuff, so we'll just go ahead and show you what I'm talking about here. This is the first build that really feels good, going with Sacred Flame, Warrior's Flame, that type of stuff, because it's the first build where that kind of RP makes sense. So that's why I highlight that here. But these 2 trees are where we would start, just within Restoration and Alteration. It would be kind of a weak build to start the game with, but as we grow and eventually once we unlock Orc Strength, that's where we start reclassing into all the other stuff, right? So that's where we get all of our strength, our 2-handed block, heavy armor, and our 2-handed block, heavy armor. There was one more there. I forgot what it was. Smithing. Yeah, that's where we start focusing on that stuff. And realistically, we could focus on smithing at the beginning too. Like, we could go with Dwarven auto cannons and stuff just to start the game with. yeah, that's how we'd start it, as a shaman, and then we'd eventually become a shaman war chief. We'd get fallen drunk and we'd be smacking people around with it. Yeah, so just prepare to be blinded because Talon's Nern is way too bright. That's another thing that would be awesome if it was changed. Now, you can see the difference in my magicka health and stamina here, just way different now. That's because of work strength. And yeah, that's the effect that it has there. So the last thing I want to go over here is exactly how fun this build is. It feels good. It's intuitive to jump up and, you know, hit something with a spike and it goes flying, and then you look at the number, you look at the health bar, and it's, yeah, no damage whatsoever. That's just really feel bad. Like, it feels good until it feels bad. But it's, to create a fun mechanic like that is not easy. So to even start having a fun mechanic like this should be its own fun thing to do. It should be a build. It just lacks the numbers to be a build. Like, if it had damage numbers like I described in the beginning, that 40% for Warhog Stomp, that 35% of max health for Towns of Nern, and then the shifting earth being tied to the proc rate. Did I mention that? Okay, so shifting earth should be tied to its proc rate. So if you use shifting earth on an enemy and you stagger them, it has a percentage chance to launch them like these spikes coming from Towns of Nern. In my opinion, that should also deal damage to their current health equal to the proc rate. So if it's 22% proc rate, 22% chance to happen, it should be 22% of their current health done. But that's about it, guys. Like I said, this is really fun to play. I just wish it was more I just wish it actually had a conclusive ending to it, because you could stomp on people for ages without killing them, and that's kind of sucky. But as always, I've been me, you've been awesome, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.